Well, hey there. I'm out here in the woods doing one of the things that I dearly love to do. It's Saturday morning. Not that Saturday is any kind of a special day anymore for us, because now that we're retired, every day is Saturday. But I'm in the woods getting set up on a spot, getting ready for the opening of archery season for deer. Archery in this zone in Lower Alabama opens October 15th, and they've changed up the stipulations a little bit for us. Used to be, up until this year, when archery opened, you could shoot either sex, buck or doe. They've changed it this year in this zone. I don't know how it is. They've got 3 zones now in Alabama. But in this zone, the first 10 days of archery season is bucks only. And that doesn't really bother me. I'd rather, as someone who hunts primarily as a source of meat for the table, we would rather eat doe than we would buck. And yeah, I've never been a horn hunter. I've never been one to get really excited about seeing the antlers in the woods, not from a meat hunter's perspective. But with things changing up this year, I've really got to focus on bucks the first 10 days. Now, last year on our game camera, we have pictures of 5 different really nice racked bucks. The largest body and the widest, tallest rack is a 6-point. There's a 7-point, there's an 8-point, at least one 8-point. The 6-point, I think there's a couple of 6s, but this one particular 6-point, body-wise, he's huge. And he's got this big, huge, beautiful, perfect, wide, tall 6-point rack. And I'm more excited about getting him than I would be about getting one of the 8-points, even though they've got 2 more tines. He's a spectacular looking 6-point. Uncommon in this part of the country. Bucks, deer in general, this close to the coast, don't typically get as large or have as nice a looking racks as they do farther inland. It may have something to do with how much mineral is in the ground or something. You know, I've heard that. I don't know for sure. But it's hotter than the blazes. The heat index right now is about 95 degrees. Yesterday was a booger of a day out here cutting brush. I'm going to show you my little clearing and stuff like that, and where I'm set up. I promised I'd do that on an earlier video, and I'm hoping to chronicle the process of taking a deer from on the hoof in the woods to wrapped and frozen in the freezer as a part of our subsistence lifestyle. And looking forward to doing that. And if the deer are cooperative and all the circumstances are cooperative, we'll have that coming up in a future video. But for right now, I'm just out here in the woods having fun, getting ready, thinking about it. And you know, that's a huge part of it. And I'll give you a little look around and show you what we got going on here. It's hard to see through that tangle of wild blueberries, but just on the other side of that tangle is what is left of a woods road that ran along the edge of what at one time was a gravel pit. The gravel pit now is fairly well grown in. I found this little clearing, and yesterday I used my brush axe to open it up, get some of the little gnarly tangly stuff out of the way, and to be able to see a little bit better. And it continues on. You see the two little pine trees, the two little longleaf pines that are growing in. It continues on for another 50 or 60 yards to the that'd be the northeast. I'm going to attach a ladder stand to that bigger pine tree overlooking the clearing. Now what we've got going on here is, even though I've claimed it as a walking trail, there's a game trail, a deer trail that runs along here, and I don't like to set up this close to a trail, but having a really good idea of the direction that the deer travel and their particular lifestyle, I'm in the process of building a ground blind here where I can watch in that direction. But where it drops off here, the bank is well worn where the deer travel, and they generally come from two directions. They walk what remains of the woods road, and about 100 yards or so to my right, there's a spot that they cut up the bank and travel, and then this spot, and this is the more well worn of the two. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a productive spot for us this year. I like coming back here in the spring and early summer to pick wild blueberries. I call this my honey hole. That's what's left of the woods road. Don't have to worry about anybody driving it. It's fairly well grown in. There's a little pine tree that's fallen across it. Our outdoor classroom, by the way, we're working with this group that we're mentoring in basic outdoor skills, is on that little hilltop over there, about 100 yards away, maybe 150. That's a tangle. It's not going to be fun dragging a deer out of that mess, but at least it's not briars. Big old briar patch. I've had to crawl into a briar patch to get deer more times than I care to think about. You can't see it from here, but when you make your way across this gnarly tangle, 300 feet, 400 feet, I can't remember exactly. On the other side of this, there's a huge cut over clear cut that's growing back in where it had been timbered maybe 5, 8 years ago. These pines that are growing up inside the gravel pit, some of them are probably 25 or 30 years old, maybe 40. These are the old slow growing longleaf I'm going to set up a ladder in that larger pine overlooking the clearing, and back in that little hole behind my rucksack I'm going to build a ground blind. I'm building a ground blind up in there. I'll have good concealment, and as long as the wind's not blowing in the wrong direction, we should be in good shape. I can sit here for hours listening to the cicadas and the birds. There's something about the sound of the breeze blowing through the pines that is very pleasant. When I do the video on taking the deer from hoof in the woods to wrapped and in the freezer, I'm not going to do a video of the kill and that sort of thing. If you want to see something like that, there's a lot of other videos of people just out getting a thrill out of killing something. I'm not one of those. I don't kill anything for the thrill of it, and I'll probably document a ritual that I perform every time I kill a deer, and I'll explain that at a later time why I do that. And archery season, I wish I could still draw a bow. That was something that when I busted this shoulder, it crapped me out of being able to draw a bow. I always enjoyed bow hunting. I started out with a recurve a lot of years ago and regressed to a compound, and I owned a couple of compound bows. And then when I busted my shoulder, I fairly well gave up on archery. I couldn't bring myself to going to a crossbow. I was too much of a traditionalist. Even though I was shooting a compound bow, there was just something about the idea of going to a crossbow that did not appeal to me. And so I was out of the woods for several years, and finally broke down and bought a Parker crossbow, and that is one sweet, wicked machine. Funny, sitting here, squatting here, talking to you. I just heard something big running through the woods. I didn't hear a snort, but there's something big over there, not too awful far from us. I gotta be quiet. Hey guys, gals, I'm gonna shut this thing off and sit here a little bit. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you on the next one, folks.